Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's a privilege to join colleagues and friends from around the world today. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to begin my session with a simple observation. Throughout human history, every major advancement in publishing has been driven by a single ambition, that is to move knowledge further. We started with the printing press. It allowed ideas to travel beyond the walls of institutions. And then we have mass publishing. It expanded access to books across societies. Then we have digital technologies. It accelerated the movement of information across borders. Today, ladies and gentlemen, artificial intelligence represents the latest chapter in that long evolution. Yet, amidst the excitement surrounding I know we all, especially in Kota Buku, are extremely excited with AI. But I believe that the publishing industry as a whole must today pause and ask a fundamental question. Next, Dr. Anna, thank you. The fundamental question is, what problem are we actually trying to solve today? For many industries, artificial intelligence primarily about efficiency. We all know about reducing costs, automating, accelerating workflow, increasing productivity. But in publishing, we know that it actually certainly stands to benefit from all of this advancement. For the past 2-3 years, it has been tremendous. But however, the publishing sphere actually occupies a very unique position within our society. We don't merely manufacture products like every other industries. We are the people who shape knowledge systems, support education system, preserve cultural memories. We for years are the one who influence how future generations understand themselves and the world around them. So for this very reason, ladies and gentlemen, the most important question facing us in the publishing industry today is not how AI can help us to produce more books. The most important question is whether AI can help us ensure that knowledge reaches everyone it was meant to serve. The greatest challenge of our generation, like I said just now, no longer producing knowledge. Ensuring that knowledge reaches everyone was meant to serve, that's actually our key task that we have to fulfill today. So this particular challenge is particularly relevant in ASEAN, the Southeast Asian nation, where we are from, Malaysia, is a home to nearly 700 million people and one of the most diverse regions in the world, linguistically, culturally, economically, politically. And within our region ourselves, we find highly, this is something that I want to share with everyone. Within the region itself, we find highly developed urban centers, but alongside, there are also still remote rural communities. We could find in Southeast Asia globally connected digital consumers, for example, in Singapore, alongside populations that still face significant barriers to accessing books and educational resources. We can say that in Malaysia also, especially in Borneo, the rural area of Sabah and Sarawak. In Southeast Asia, we also operate across hundreds of languages and dialects while serving societies that possesses very different reading tradition and publishing ecosystem. So all of this reality, ladies and gentlemen, require all of us to think differently about AI. The truth is, having heard about a lot of conversation about AI for the past years, this conversation about AI in publishing mostly originate from mature publishing markets, where the primary challenges often revolve only around productivity, discoverability, workflow optimization, or content generation. In Southeast Asia, ladies and gentlemen, our challenges are much, much broader. In Southeast Asia, we must address questions of access, equity, inclusion, language, and most importantly, we must address the question of readership itself. So today, I would like to note that the future of publishing in ASEAN would not be determined solely by how effectively we adopt AI in the region of Southeast Asia, but it will be determined by how effectively we use artificial intelligence to create readers. I repeat, it will be determined by how effectively we use intelligence to create readers in the region. So let this sink a bit. These two distinctions are extremely, this particular distinction is extremely important. Dr. Anna, can you go straight away to the next one? Yeah, okay. Because artificial intelligence focuses on generating outputs, but reading intelligence focuses on understanding human engagement with knowledge. AI generate content, but reading intelligence helps societies understand how knowledge moves, where it stops, whom it reaches, and whom it leaves behind. And also today, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that the next stage of publishing development requires us to move beyond conversations about artificial intelligence alone and towards a broader framework that we describe as RI, which is reading intelligence, which we refer to as the ability to actually serve all of the stakeholders that I have listed there: the publishers, educators, government, booksellers, library, cultural institution, etc., to understand reading behavior, reading access, reading barriers, and reading opportunities at scales. Because the problem for many of us, especially in Southeast Asia, for many, many decades, many reading policies are developed using just assumptions. Look at all the assumptions that I put on the screen. We make all of those assumptions to date also.
Sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
Adibah. I think the screen is shared by Anna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are on the we are on the same.
I think it's not from the same computer or the system. Okay, anyway, go ahead. It's not a problem.
Okay. So you look at, we have been assuming that certain communities don't read, people are losing interest in books, assume digital technologies were replacing reading. But in many cases too, we actually lack sufficient evidence to verify all of these assumptions. So today, data allows us to ask more sophisticated questions thanks to artificial intelligence. Next, Anna. Yeah, thank you. data allows us to answer who is reading, what are they reading, how frequently, which community remain underserved, which books create meaningful engagement, like what Nadim mentioned just now, where do reading deserts exist, what interventions usually produce new readers, so on and so forth. So AI provides unprecedented capacity to analyze all of those questions. And the true opportunity before us is not simply automation. The true opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, in our humble opinion, is the opportunity to understand. This is where we believe the concept of hybrid intelligence becomes essential. There's increasing discussion about artificial intelligence replacing human activities. Just now we were asking what kind of AI tool would be able to, I read in one of the comments, what kind of AI tool that is most acceptable to increase efficiency. We all in publishing should just resist the simplistic narratives of replacement, because publishing world has always been fundamentally human. And AI contributes extraordinary capabilities in processing information, identifying patterns, translating languages, organizing data, supporting decision making. Yet, like what Santil mentioned just now, wisdom on how we translate and translate well without taking out the cultural nuance of what we translate, judgment, ethics, cultural sensitivity, and meaning remain distinctively human. So therefore, the future of publishing, in our humble opinion, something that especially in Malaysia, we are advocating. It should not be framed as a contest between human and machine. It belongs to, because we believe that the future belongs to hybrid intelligence. Which means that the kind of intelligence that combines the computational power of machines that all of us are trying to push for the past years with human judgment, creativity, ethics, and cultural understanding. But ladies and gentlemen, within publishing, this means that AI is not a substitute for human expertise, but as a force multiplier for human capability. At any given point of the process, we shouldn't let only the machine do everything. There must be a point where human intelligence comes in and complete the process. Ladies and gentlemen, our ultimate objective is not technological sophistication. It shouldn't be. It should be societal impact. What kind of societal impact? Maybe translators can become more productive because they have an AI tool to do 80% of the work, and they put in an extra 20% to finish up the project beautifully. Editors become more informed, publishers more strategic, government become more evidence-based and come up with more beautiful policy, especially in producing more new readers for the country. And of course, for readers to become better served. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm coming to an end of my session, but allow me to share a perspective from Malaysia a little bit. Yeah, over the past several years, we have been working to expand access to books through a combination of policy innovation, digital infrastructure, industry collaboration. And one of the most significant initiatives have been the implementation of a nationwide digital book voucher program, reaching millions of students across urban and rural communities. 2024 impacted 3.5 million students. 2025 for 430,000 teachers. And 3 weeks ago at the Kuala Lumpur International Book Fair, the Prime Minister announced that he is gifting another round of book voucher for 2.1 million students for this year alone, amounting to around USD 54 million. But ladies and gentlemen, of course, the program demonstrated something profoundly important. With all the data that we have from the past 2 rounds, and hopefully for the next 1 round of book voucher, we already come up with a dashboard to analyze who is reading what. Of course, with the power of AI, and now we know which child is reading what, and what are the top 10 titles nationwide, or top 10 titles on based on the district, are the girls reading more than the boys and whatnot. So we are extremely excited for the very fact that AI also at this point of time plays a huge role in ensuring the positioning of reading intelligence is being well put in the country. End of the day, this particular project done for the past 3 years really signifies that when barriers to access are reduced, demand for reading emerges, and students in the major city and students in remote communities display the same desire to access knowledge when giving opportunity. So this is what comes out of the whole process. It reinforced an important lesson for each and every one of us in the country. That challenge is often not a lack of interest in reading. The challenge is a lack of access to reading. And today, technology, powered and coupled with artificial intelligence, allow us to expand that particular access. And the big data that we have today allowed us to understand its impact and the opportunity to deepen that understanding even further. All of the opportunity listed on the screen, those are the opportunities that extend beyond buying and selling. The touch of books, the touch upon social mobility, educational outcomes, cultural participation, national development. And this is why we at Kota Buku believe publishing should be recognized as a strategic component of knowledge infrastructure. And the conversation about AI should not just focus exclusively on publishing operations. It also should focus on publishing outcomes. What kind of society are we trying to build? What kind of citizen are we trying to nurture? What role does reading play in that future? For Southeast Asia, another remarkable opportunity actually lies in the area of language. As I've mentioned just now, the region actually possesses extraordinary literary wealth. Unfortunately, much of that wealth remains confined within linguistic boundaries. So today, we believe that AI can now create opportunities to strengthen. This is very much needed in the region, translation ecosystem, which at the same time will expand cultural exchange and increase the circulation of beautiful, beautiful stories across our region. But when I say this, when I say that AI have that opportunity, literature deserves better than that. What we are suggesting today is a future where AI supports translators, editors, rights professionals in accelerating the movement across border while preserving quality and cultural nuance. Hence, what I said just now about human intelligence, that a human should come in. The whole process should not be done by AI tools alone. Human must come in to actually do the whole process at the end. Such a future will strengthen not only publishing industry, but also regional understanding. And stories, of course, are among the most powerful instruments of diplomacy ever created. And artificial intelligence can help amplify that influence that we have if deployed responsibly. So as we look ahead, I believe, I really, really believe all of us in Southeast opportunity to contribute something distinctive to the global AI conversation. We in Southeast Asia, I really think, can contribute a conversation about human outcomes. We can demonstrate how AI, especially in the area of translation, can support inclusion. We can demonstrate how technology can strengthen educational equity. And we can demonstrate how data can support evidence-based reading policy. And most importantly, we can demonstrate how technology can be deployed in service of human development. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of publishing will not be determined solely by who possesses the most advanced algorithm. It will be determined by who uses intelligence most effectively to connect people with knowledge. And we believe the next step for ASEAN publishing stakeholders is action. So therefore, if they are Southeast Asian nation publishing industry here, players, I therefore encourage all of you here across the region to commit to these three priorities. Invest in reading intelligence capabilities. You have AI, you have the data, turn it into reading intelligence, build shared data ecosystem that help us understand reading behavior and identify underserved communities, measure real impact of reading intervention. Secondly, adopt hybrid intelligent frameworks that place human judgment, ethics, cultural sensitivity, editorial expertise at the center of every AI deployment. Don't look at AI and AI alone. And thirdly, I really think that we should strengthen regional collaboration by developing partnerships for translation, research, digital access, knowledge exchange, so that we can all benefit greatly from the technological advancement and successful innovations that we can all scale across Southeast Asia. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe if we make these commitments together, we can create a publisher ecosystem that is more inclusive, more evidence-based, and more responsive to the needs of our people. And if we succeed, the Southeast Asian nation would not simply adapt to the age of AI. We would be those who define how AI can be used responsibly in the publishing industry to expand readership, strengthen education, advance human development. And I believe, based on all of the AI tool that is around, like what Santil mentioned just now, the opportunity is before us. That is the responsibility we share. So let us move together forward with purpose, guided by reading intelligence, powered by hybrid intelligence, and be united by a common mission. The first mission that we mentioned up there just now, to ensure that knowledge reaches everyone it was meant to serve. With this, thank you everyone for the opportunity to speak. I would gladly take any question if there's one.
Thank you, Adibah. That was again an insightful presentation, giving a ground report from the ASEAN. It was interesting that you mentioned it's the access to reading that is the most important thing rather than lack of reading habits. There is one interesting question before we go to the next session. It's will the ecosystems around the analog publishing houses survive this thunderstorm? The attendee means the AI thunderstorm. Anyone would like to take this question before we move?
I don't know that I'm the expert for it, Lango, but I can't really see a future where AI is not helpful to a publisher. And I go a bit more radically that I think it'll also be helpful to every creator. And I don't think that it damages its authenticity or its creativity or its originality. Of course, it needs to be within the confines of the sort of things that I've talked about. So I think the analog publisher is already using a host of technologies. This is just another one. And I think it needs gradual adoption. People don't need to stampede into it. But I think the future will be AI associated. It's an allied intelligence rather than the predatory one.